Hey, everybody. Welcome to another week of Breakfast All Day. Alonso is here with Matt and Christy. Matt's got marquees. Christy's got news. We've all got spilkus.
Do you have spilkus today? Is that true?
I think I've had spilkus for 7 months now. I feel like it's just an ongoing
what's the treatment
condition
for spilkus?
Nachas.
There you go.
It's true.
Pride
Hectic gesund.
Yes. So we got to lead with some news that is a week old, but it is still the most important thing going on probably in our world right now, and that is the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, longtime Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. For those of you who watched our news segment last week and wondered why aren't they talking about RBGs, because the news of her death broke like 2 hours after we finished recording. We were devastated, of course. She had been fighting for so long with every breath in her tiny body against the many illnesses she's had over the years, many forms of cancer. We talked about the great documentary RBG on What the Flick a couple of years ago, and how it begins with her at the gym with her little 3-pound weights, working out with her trainer. So she was fighting so hard to stay with us for as long as she possibly could. And as we speak, she is lying in state in Congress, the first woman ever to lie in state. For those of you who don't live in the United States, she was a longtime Supreme Court justice and fought for a lot of women's rights and changes to the way families live. A lot of the ways that we live our lives in the United States today are because of issues she fought for, gender equality issues. I can open a bank account and get a credit card.
I was going to say, women having bank accounts.
Right, so I can shop to make myself pretty for my husband and make sure I have just the right apron on when I have dinner on the table for him at 6 o'clock. But she fought tirelessly. She was brilliant. There's the documentary RBG, of course, but also the movie On the Basis of Sex, which came out a couple years ago, starring Felicity Jones as Ginsburg and Armie Hammer as her longtime loving husband, Marty, which was not quite as good as RBG. If you're going to see one of them, watch the documentary. The documentary is great. And so just an incredible life and a huge loss. And now we are at a tremendous crossroads, a very kind of scary crossroads in terms of what's going to happen next. It already was a 5-4 conservative majority in the Supreme Court. And within an hour of the announcement of her death, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell is saying, we're going to get a nominee on the floor. We're going to vote for it. And so Trump is announcing his nominee tomorrow.
Yeah. And I swear the Democrats had better come up with something better than, we want to appeal to the better natures of Republicans and they're not going to do this thing. They don't have any, and that's not going to get you anywhere. And I really want to see them stand up against this because they better be ready to stand up. Inevitably, the guy in office right now decides he's not going to acknowledge the election, that he's going to say that it was all corrupt and the mail-in ballots don't count, that he's not leaving, and meow. And like the Republicans, the Democrats for once need to grow a spine on this, or else it's just going to be one big downhill roll.
Right. For those of you who don't follow these things as closely as we tend to around here, when there was an opening on the Supreme Court
when Scalia died
in 2016, when Scalia died,
8 months.
Right,
before the election.
8 months before the election.
8 months.
Right. Everyone's like, well, no, of course Obama can't appoint somebody. It's an election
in his election year.
And now it was like 47 days before the election when Ginsburg died. And they're like, we're railroading this fucker through. So,
and the thing is, they'll do it after the election too, right? Like they'll do it after the election, like F McConnell, F Lindsey Graham, F Donald Trump, F everybody working for him, F everybody.
Yeah.
Well, no. They want to have the 9th one in place before the election because they are already saying, again, because they always say the quiet part out loud, they want 9 justices in to legislate the legality of the election. And they want to Bush v. Gore this crap all over again.
And they want to be 6-3 conservative when that happens. So yes, even like hopes of saying, the vote will come during the lame duck period. It won't, because they're forcing this thing through. And people who might have been profiles in courage, as Brian Williams likes to call them, like Mitt Romney, for example, are like, I will vote on whatever nominee Trump puts forward. So you can't rely on anybody anymore.
No.
Invest in guillotines.
Yes. If you have not seen either the documentary RBG or the fictional narrative film On the Basis of Sex, Focus Features and Magnolia Pictures are putting them out across the country in about 1,000 theaters. They're re-releasing both films starting today, Friday, September 25th, donating the net proceeds to the ACLU Women's Rights Project, which Ginsburg founded in 1972.
And they are both available for rental streaming.
I was just going to say that very thing.
So
if you want to watch either of them from the comfort and safety of your home, you can do that. But if you feel comfortable in a theater where you are, where there aren't a lot of folks, and you want to go do that and do it for a good cause, that is available to you. So that is happening. The other awful piece of news is what happened with the shooting of Breonna Taylor, and that the grand jury failed to indict any of the officers on charges relating to her death. The only charges that came were against one of the three officers for firing wanton bullets that hit the next door neighbor's apartment. So you might have inconvenienced some white people next door. But the young woman who was shot to death in her bed, it doesn't really matter, apparently.
That we care more about property than we care about human life.
Right. And so there have been protests in Louisville, Kentucky. This is a 26-year-old woman who was shot in her bed. These police officers barged into her home, and they say that her boyfriend shot at them first, and that's why they fired. But why are they barging into her home? 26-year-old paramedic, and she is dead. And there are protests in the streets again, and understandably so. Matt.
Amongst the things that strike me as the terrible, 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 disgusting irony of this is that the boyfriend was a registered gun owner. And the thing we hear about people squawking about the Second Amendment all the time is, well, I need to protect myself, which is what this guy did because the cops had a no-knock warrant. And if I have read correctly, a bunch of them weren't even in uniform. So, of course, a gun owner, like, that's what everybody who says we need to protect gun owners, like, this dude, the boyfriend, did exactly what everybody's been saying, and she gets so much of the dialogue around guns in this country has been very thinly veiled discussion of white supremacy. Like Ronald Reagan came out for gun control in California in the 60s when the Black Panthers started arming themselves. Philando Castile, licensed gun owner, shot by the police. NRA said nothing. So clearly all this stand your ground bullshit and a man's castle and all of that stuff is a vindication for white gun owners to shoot at interlopers of color. But if you are a gun owner of color and you are trying to defend yourself from your own interlopers, too bad, so sad. The Second Amendment bullies are suddenly very quiet on the subject.
This is also my concern with the election and the potential upheaval that will result from, an election not being known for a little while, is that Trump, not even tacitly, like quite expressly, has been, saying to his people, arm yourselves, and his little satellite people who have all been saying, like, arm yourselves. And I feel like these fuckers are going to take it as like a call to arms.
You thought the Brooks Brothers riot was bad.
Yeah, these all like these wannabe tough guys, these self-proclaimed militias, people who are storming the state capitol. But people who are already storming state capitals with their guns, I think we're going to have upheaval after the election if it is indeed unknown, or if it's not a landslide or at all.
Can we get some UN advisors in blue helmets here to oversee our elections, please?
Heaven knows we need them.
I signed up to be a poll worker in my neighborhood. Yeah, just because I feel like, in these trying these times of health concerns that, more often than not, you get elderly folks working the polls and doing it for many, many years. And so I'm gonna with me, my able, healthy self, I'm going to go and help out. But I mean, what else can we do? What can we do? I don't know. What do you guys do to help make sure that the election goes well? What can one do?
I think there are organizations that you can support that are doing get out the vote programs, that are either helping to drive people to the polls or who are helping to get the word out online. There was a whole thing this week where it was kind of like a national make sure you're registered day. And I heard from, I had a friend who was really pushing it hard, and he said like he had 3 different friends who came back to him and said that, oh yeah, I just assumed I was all good to go. And then I checked and no, I moved and they didn't have me and blah, blah, blah. So, there are plenty of websites you can go to, and it'll tell you what the rules are for your state, and you can look online with your county or whatever to see, what your status is. Make sure that you're registered, because a lot of people get mysteriously disappeared from the voter rolls of late, and so it behooves you to double check that kind of thing.
Yes.
I've been telling all of my relatives and acquaintances that I know in swing states that lean to the right that they can just text their vote in this year. And I've been supplying them with a number that they can just text their vote, that they don't have to go to the polls. They don't have to mail it in. They can text it. It's super easy. It's super safe. So that's what I've been doing, because really the swing states is where I think we need help.
I'm going to have to report you for voter intimidation and voter suppression, Matt. This is not democracy.
Yeah, I'm reporting this tweet.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that's the way we were playing. I thought that was I'm sorry. Wait. We can't.
The new level playing field. Yeah.
Like okay, if we're playing dirty, then let's play dirty. Like if we're gonna get greasy, let's get greasy.
We are not. You guys. So this is how. Moving on. This is how irrelevant the Emmys are in our world, considering everything that's happened lately. The Emmys were last weekend.
Yeah.
Do you guys know the Emmys were coming?
I didn't know they were happening. I feel like we're constantly in for your consideration season, so I never know when they actually happen. But I caught some of it on TV just to see how they were going to do it this year. And it was like, they had a wall of screens of hundreds of Zoom calls that were live and ready to go. And then they had these people in like weird kind of scuba costumes who would show up at people's houses and hand them their Emmy. And I don't know if you guys saw the guy who's the star of Rami, the show on Hulu. He actually filmed on his phone the Emmy guy leaving with the Emmy that he didn't win.
Have you guys ever seen like the full face scuba masks?
Like the old school metal ones, or
no. Like it almost looks a little bit like they were wearing in The Abyss. It's this whole plastic thing that goes over your face and it like covers your mouth a little bit, but it's like a whole face thing. And I started to think like, maybe I should get one of those.
They're selling a mask like that. I've seen them online. I forget the name of the company now, but it looks a lot like that. It's this plastic thing.
Yeah, like it's a full face snorkel.
Yeah. And
I saw the one you sent. Yeah.
You kind of look. It's kind of like Black Manta in the Aquaman comics. That whole sort of.
So among the highlights, I didn't watch any of these distant Emmys, but Schitt's Creek cleaned up.
Yep.
I've never seen Schitt's Creek. I hear it's really great. Is it cute?
I get why people love it, and apparently I haven't gotten to that magical point where it makes this pivot that makes people really, really love it. But yes, that's a different one. But okay,
that's the full face snorkel mask.
Matt's showing us a scuba mask on his phone. Cool. I watched about like the first 2 or 3 seasons, and I like it, and it's charming. But like I'm a bigger fan of Letterkenny, but that's just me. I know there's a very devoted Schitt's Creek fan base, and bless them.
Yeah, we've talked about this a little bit. As a quick aside, those of you that are Letterkenny fans, like, let's hear about it, because we definitely, I know I myself am anxiously waiting for the next season. I don't know if you've gone through the whole show yet.
We're parceling them out. Like, we're anti-binging them. We give ourselves 2 a week. It's a thing to look forward to, and then,
So Gabe's birthday is next week.
Super soft?
Well, yeah. And so I am going to get on Cameo and have Daryl and Squirrely Dan wish him a super soft happy birthday. They're not all on there, but the guy that plays Daryl and the guy that plays Squirrely Dan and the woman who plays Bonnie McMurray.
Oh, Bonnie McMurray.
You guys
Sorry, these are inside jokes you were not getting, Christy.
I don't get any of this. Right?
This show is so good, Christy, and you'll be horrified if you watch it with Nick because they swear.
Yeah, there's some scatological humor. But I'll tell you, Christy, this. Watch the first 2 minutes of the first 2 episodes, until the credits. And if it doesn't immediately grab you, then fine. But I bet you it immediately grabs you.
Oh, I'm sure I'll like it. I like Canada. I like hockey.
So good.
So that was a big deal. And then Regina King won again. Regina King just keeps winning. Watchmen did really well.
She's the Meryl of the Emmys.
Yes, and then Zendaya was the youngest Emmy winner ever at 24 for Euphoria.
For anything or for lead actress specifically?
I think
do we know?
For lead actress specifically, but she beat like Jennifer Aniston and Olivia Colman. And, so that was the Emmys. So we keep going back and forth on Halloween. Halloween's coming in a month, and before we had guidelines saying, "Oh, don't have Halloween at all," and then maybe it was LA County that walked that back, but now the CDC is saying no trick or treating. Of course, they can't mandate this, but they're saying that they recommend really strongly.
Sure.
No trick or treating, no costume parties, stay home and carve a pumpkin.
What's really fucked up is that
bobbing for apples is right out.
7 months of show. I'm sure that people at the CDC are like, we know that even on this day, people aren't going to wear masks because so no candy for anyone.
It's not that some guy built a candy chute, like going from his front door, like down the railing of his stairway, and like kids could get it on the other side.
Nice.
That seems safe.
Right, instead of a potato gun, like you do a candy gun.
There has to be a way.
I would totally be willing to huck candy at kids. That would be hilarious.
We never have trick-or-treaters in our neighborhood, but if we did, I would put the candy in the LA Dodgers bucket and then lower it off the balcony.
So here's the question. You guys go to the grocery store. You guys go to Target. What happens to these giant bags full of like multi-pack candy if no one's going to trick-or-treating?
People are buying them together.
As I said on Twitter a couple weeks ago, you can send me your candy. If you've got all this candy that you bought that you don't know what to do with, if you send it to me, I will dispose of it. I will take care of it. I know it's a big responsibility,
Sacrifice.
But I'm willing to take that burden on for everybody.
David and I've already
service, Matt.
There you go. Dave and I've already gone through a bag of the half green Reese's cups and the green Kit Kats, and we're not done. So I think adults need those bags of candy to get through this, especially now, moment.
Much more so. Let's talk about this story with Ron Howard directing this movie about the pianist Lang Lang, and how Lulu Wang tweeted about how that seems like a poor choice, and she's right. So it was announced this big movie. He's this, and the life of struggle that he had in China, and her family's from that same part of Northeast China. And she's like, I'm not writing this because I want to be the one to tell this story. I don't want to direct this film, but somebody who has a greater cultural understanding of this region and of this kind of upbringing would be a better choice than, Ron Howard, acclaimed as Ron Howard is.
Let us not forget, Norman Jewison was set to direct the Malcolm X biopic for Warner Brothers until Spike Lee was like, what if not? What if somebody else? And of course, in Spike Lee's case, it was, I do want to do this, but yeah, I think that's totally valid. I think that there's been this notion that white men get to make any movie about any people they want. And, it also, it's that thing where when we talk about like casting, gay and lesbian actors, casting trans actors, it's like, if you're not going to hire an Asian filmmaker, a Chinese filmmaker, specifically Chinese filmmaker to tell this specifically Chinese story, when are you going to hire them?
There would just seem to be, in ways large and small, a greater understanding, a greater nuance, a greater feel
you're not
for
a
the
tourist.
details. Yeah. So, I'm sure Ron Howard means well, but she's got an excellent point.
And Ron Howard can produce it and put the right person in the director's chair and make sure that it gets made and seen and all that stuff. He's got that clout.
Absolutely. We've got a bunch of movie release date changes for you. Disney announced a whole bunch of changes. Mostly the big one is that Black Widow has now been pushed to May 7th, 2021. Yep. Which is about a whole year later.
Yes.
Right,
because they had just said it was going to be February.
They said it was supposed to come out originally this summer, right? And then they said November 6th. Mm-hmm. And then they moved it again to May 7th of next year. Also,
but
West
before
Side
that,
Story,
they had been saying February, and then they moved it back again.
Also, West Side Story is now supposed to come out an entire year later. It was going to be this December. Now it's going to be next December of 2021. But because Black Widow is now moving to 2021, this is the first year that there will be no Marvel movie at all since 2009.
Wow.
Because figure they've got those things, those tent poles lined up, for many, many, many years to come.
No MCU movies. We should be specific because New Mutants did come out this year.
Okay.
Right. I don't want letters, I don't want anybody to actually me.
So that is interesting, but I can't help but think it's got to be in response to what happened with Tenet.
Well, yeah, I sent you guys the article from The Atlantic about how Tenet is doing really well everywhere else on Earth except the United States, because even with theaters open and even with theaters pretty much just showing Tenet, people just aren't going in the kind of numbers that they need. And then, similarly, Mulan, for all of Disney's attempts to get it out into the world and make it available in a way that would allow them to not have to profit share with the likes of Amazon or iTunes, is also not doing the kind of numbers that would have made that film profitable. So I think the article is basically saying, we have to figure out what blockbusters are going to look like in this world now. Because if the whole thing is contingent on big opening weekend, that's not happening in the US for some time, and I'm reminded of, ages ago, somebody at the LA Times made the comment about how as studios were leaning more and more into these big sort of epic movies that, he said single crop economies is what led to the Irish potato famine. And so studios used to make mid-budget, adult-aimed dramas and comedies and that kind of thing, and they have more and more been getting out of that business and leaving it to the Netflixes of the world and just putting all of their eggs in the blockbuster basket. And so, I think now it would behoove them to have something that, didn't have to be so gigantically profitable so quickly, in a way that would work in the times that we live in now.
Yeah, and I think that the exhibitors are complicit in that too, because so many of the bigger exhibitors pivoted towards these multiplex things where you had to have multiple screens and showing the big hot thing and crank as much money out as possible those first couple of weekends, that you end up oversaturating. That's part of how you end up oversaturating your market, right? I'm going to have 20 screens and they're all going to show Shrek 3. Okay, enough, guys. Enough, right?
I mean, and you go back and I can't remember what this was for, but I was looking back at the sort of box office top 10 going back several years. If you look at the first half of the 80s, the top 10 has titles like Terms of Endearment and On Golden Pond in it. It's unthinkable now that
Oscar winners.
Yeah, one of the highest grossing films of the year would be these small scale Oscar baity, kind of comedies and dramas. But there used to be more of an audience for that kind of thing, and I think there still could be if they knew how to nurture that and not just have people stay at home all the time. But now that we are all staying at home all the time, it's kind of shooting them in the foot. The other thing I wanted to throw out real quick about Black Widow is that, like you said, that because this is the first year with no MCU movie in a while, it's this domino effect that has now pushed the next three ahead, right? Eternals and the next Ant-Man. I forget what the next ones are, but they've all now also had to move up 7 or 8 months, right?
I mean, there's a third Guardians movie in the works, right? That has to be getting pushed also, right? That can't be.
I would think, yeah, because they have to come out in order because they're so built on here's what happens.
Well,
next.
And then the other problem too is it's not right, because also production's delayed. Nobody's shooting anything, right? True. And so, when something if the production of Guardians gets pushed back, then that has a cascade effect for everybody's schedule in that, right? And James Gunn's and everybody, it's what a fucking mess.
Yes. So one place that you can go see a movie theoretically safely, Alamo Drafthouse is expanding that program that they had kind of a little test run of. So they were doing it just in a couple of cities, including Austin, I believe. You can rent out a whole theater at Alamo Drafthouse for $150 for as many people as you feel comfortable being in a room with. Having said that, they also charge you another $150 for food and drinks. So really, the whole experience is $300. So if you've got like 10 people and they're each willing to pay $30, I just did math, you guys.
Wow. Does the harassment get thrown in? Or is that a separate cost?
The harassment is free.
Yeah, they give it away at the Alamo. Is this like a 2-drink minimum thing where you have to commit to basically spending at least $150? But I'm sure, depending on how many people you've got, it's very easy to go past $150 on the food and drink there.
If you're getting wine. No, I think that they charge you a flat rate of $150, I believe is how it works. But again, it depends on how many people you are willing to get into a room with and how many people are willing to do that, who feel comfortable doing that. One thing also that has changed with this program, before it was just older movies that you could rent a theater for. Now you can see Tenet. Now you can see Kajillionaire, which we're going to talk about on the show today. So maybe that is more of a lure that you can see new movies in the theater finally. If you've got, a group of friends or a big family that you're already in a pod with people.
Or $300 to burn.
Or $300 to burn, and you're just getting shitty with like a pitcher of beer and a straw. That's all you need. What's that?
Drinks beer through a straw.
Ladies.
Christy.
Sorority girls.
You don't want to mess up this lip.
Right. It doesn't wake up like this. This is work. So that, I know you guys are not big fans of Alamo. We've talked about Alamo a lot on the show, but they are doing that in an effort to stay viable and also to maintain the movie going experience.
And it will be interesting to see if it works and if other chains pick up their lead, certainly.
Yes. The Metropolitan Opera in New York City is canceling its entire 2020-21 season.
Wow.
It is the nation's largest performing arts organization. They have 1,000 full-time employees who have been furloughed without pay since April. And so now it's going to go all the way into next spring and beyond.
Man.
And so that was a New York Times story that I saw recently, and other big arts organizations are looking to that as to like, what do we do? Like they are setting a standard here somewhere.
Hope you stretched out that $1,200 check from the government, everybody.
So there's that.
Ouch. They are doing the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, though, but just to no spectators.
Okay, so you're just like dragging Snoopy down the street, and
yes, with a lot of TV cameras. So it's going to be the rest of us can enjoy it at home the way we always have, but you just can't cluster on the sidewalks for it.
That's like a really sad. That's like a really sad kaiju dance party that nobody shows up to, right? Like,
if you have an apartment on Central Park West, when they're going down the street. What else am I going to tell you? So, speaking of arts news, the LA Philharmonic is doing something kind of cool. It is this film series called Soundstage. It's a series of concert films that the Philharmonic performed at the Hollywood Bowl with distancing and masks when possible, depending on what instrument you play, and plexiglass between the musicians. And they did a whole series of performances, and they're going to release one on their website. It's laphilharmonic.com/soundstage, I want to say. And accompanying all these performances are interviews and essays and artwork. And like Ryan Johnson took part in one of them. Alejandro Gonzalez Iñárritu did one. So it's sort of a cool way to like keep the arts alive. I don't know that there's any way that maybe it's raising money. I'm not sure, but that is kind of a cool thing. Go support the arts. Do you see that this weird Alyssa Milano story?
No.
Like weirder than usual?
No, Alyssa Milano lives in the Valley. She lives in Bell Canyon, I want to say, which is like a gated off kind of equestrian horsey area. And I guess her neighbor on Sunday morning called the police when they saw someone suspicious in her yard near her home. And then her husband, I guess, called police to follow up just to see what was going on with that. And then she got untold amounts of shit because she's been a really vocal proponent of the defund the police stance. So it seems hypocritical. Like, oh, now you want the police.
Yeah.
But she didn't call, her neighbor called the police first.
I see.
But she's getting shit for it, like you're a rich white person benefiting from police coming to rescue you.
Okay, but like that's the type of thing, like that would be on the list of like, oh, there's somebody weird and suspicious. Like, I would think that would be the thing that we would, as we defund the police and take away like mental health and all this other stuff, that seems like that would be what they're left over to do, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, people have talked about the defunding the police movement isn't just about like, well, we're not going to have any cops, it's going to be anarchy and blah, you know. It's this notion of like there are a lot of things that the cops don't necessarily need to be the hammer to the nail that's happening. So if it's about somebody who's maybe, you know, like you need a mental health counselor, you need a social worker, like there's different things. Not that the police aren't going to be there for certain things. And also, like, that hasn't happened yet. So in the meantime, all we have is the police. So I think it's not necessarily hypocritical to be in favor of defunding them and transitioning the police into other areas while still relying upon them when they are the only game in town and there isn't this other structure built up yet to deal with these situations in a nonviolent manner.
Along those lines, yes, along those lines, Charles Barkley, last night on TNT's coverage of the Western Conference Finals, Charles Barkley was talking about the whole defund the police movement and was pretty critical of it and was saying, who are Black people supposed to call? Ghostbusters? He said that.
Has he not heard that 911 is a joke?
Yes. He's been conservative. I mean, he's sort of a no bullshit kind of voice of reason, but I don't know that he necessarily falls along the ideological lines that people might expect of him. But he has been instead a proponent of police and prison reform. Mm. There you go. So he's getting
We've
shit
been
for
down
that.
that road before.
He's getting shit for that on Twitter today.
I want to throw out a quick correction. The website is soundstage.laphil.com.
Oh, is it? I just did
LA
a thing.
Philharmonic takes you to some random thing.
Oh, anyway, that's the press release that they sent me was wrong then. All right. Thank you for your clarification. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is lifting his restriction on restaurants and other businesses in order to reopen the economy completely because Florida.
What could go wrong?
Hashtag because Florida. If you live in Florida, if you guys live in Florida, anyone out there listening or watching, please let us know how things are in your state and what precautions you're taking to be safe.
I definitely I want to hear from Florida man.
I want to hear from all the Florida men. Your governor is a madman and does not care about your health. So I'd like to know how you're keeping yourself safe in the cesspool, in the swamp, the literal swamp of Florida. I think I am pretty much this Nancy Meyers thing that you sent us, Alonso. There's going to be a Father of the Bride reunion.
Yes,
it airs tonight. It airs tonight, 6 p.m. Eastern on Netflix's YouTube and Facebook pages. It is a reunion Father of the Bride directed by Nancy Meyers, and it's a fundraiser for World Central Kitchen, which is Jose Andres's charity to feed folks in these different
And it's not just a script reading; it's like a part 3, basically, right? Of Father of the Bride. Is the idea?
It's not a table read. It's not like the Fast Times table read. It's different.
Christy, you can't possibly be done.
No, I've got a couple more things.
Okay.
Oh, I know.
Why?
I think you have a musical tidbit to share today.
I do, and it's my last thing.
Okay.
But I'm not there yet. I got one more thing.
Okay.
I think we might have mentioned this somewhere along the line before it rings a bell, but there's this whole series that is in conjunction with the Calm app called A World of Calm, where celebrities are going to read stories that will make you sleepy over images of like rivers and streams and forests and oceans. And it's on HBO Max. And among the celebrities doing it are Keanu Reeves, Idris Elba, Oscar Isaac, Nicole Kidman, Lucy Liu, Priyanka Chopra Jonas, and so many more. And it is...
I can't believe they left Gilbert Gottfried out of that.
I bet Nicole Kidman reads the hell out of a bedtime story.
You think you're awake, but you're not. You're tired. Go to sleep.
Good night, Moon. Good night.
And another thing.
You drink too much caffeine during the day.
Who would have thought that Christy was doing the best Godfrey impersonation out of the three of us?
She has an ear for it.
I have so few skills. Yes, my musical news is that Cats is premiering on HBO Max on October 10th.
Oh, that's very exciting, but that's not what I meant.
That's not the story.
Oh, what's your musical news?
From our group chat, darling.
Group chat.
How can you forget that this week is the debut of Vin Diesel's new single?
All right.
It dropped. And boy, did it drop.
Matt, can you figure out a way when you edit this video to drop a little bit of video from that?
Yes. Hi, guys. We can't really play the music or we'll get hit with a copyright strike. But here's the weird dancing.
Okay.
Yes.
It dropped with a thud.
Oh,
so
I did make the picture. It's on my Twitter. I'll put it on the clip.
Terrific. Did you guys even know that Vin Diesel had a whole side gig as a musician?
Did not. Did
Nor
not.
did I.
I figured he heard Jeremy Renner put an album out and he was like, well, he can't be the only one.
So yeah, the video we're talking about is, I guess, on the Kelly Clarkson show, they debuted Vin Diesel's new single, and because she can't have a live studio audience, she is using the same tactic that they're using during, like, you know, the NBA games in the bubble, where it's like,
right?
What are they, like LED screens of like vertical people-sized?
Some responses to the tweet that we got that was talking about how funny it was. People are making it look like it's like when you have a bunch of little Nintendo Wii characters, the Mii's from the Nintendo Wii, sitting around like just kind of like.
Well, it's like in the Avengers movies when they have to talk to the council of whatever, and it's all those screens, you know? Yeah, like Kelly Clarkson's been doing it, and Ellen in her crazy return did it. And are y'all watching the Drew Barrymore show yet, by the way?
No,
the messed up thing is...
Oh, it's manic.
What's so messed up about this, though, is that they've got the whole audience, like, bopping to it, to the beat. But because there's a delay, like there's a delay of them getting the music versus what's on the show, and then a delay of that coming back. So everybody's off like at least one or two beats. And so everybody's they're all hitting the same rhythm, but they're all at different places in it. It's like.
Well, you know, the Kelly Clarkson audience is all clapping on the one. I mean, I think we can just take that for granted at this point.
Yeah, but they're trying so hard to like fit in their little, like the three of us right now are in horizontal boxes. But they're all in like their little vertical box, like
right. And you see, like, there's some people who are very, very, very intently like doing their head bop to make sure that they stay in their little tiny window. Like.
It's terrifying. Also, we should mention really fast. It's kind
and
of
the music's terrible.
It is.
Oh
well,
yeah,
it's
awful.
He
sings like he's got a wad of Wonder Bread in his mouth.
He sings a quarter mile at a time. I'm sorry.
He is Groot.
I want to hear Groot's song.
Now, what a missed opportunity for him.
Maybe that's the B-side.
What a terrible missed opportunity for him to drop a whole album of all real beats and all of the lyrics for him to just be singing I am Groot over and over. Oh my God. Vin Diesel, I'm
crying.
You shit the bed.
I want like auto-tuned I am Groot. I was going to mention this one last thing, but this was so fun. Really fast, there's a totally inside baseball thing that the Variety and the Hollywood Reporter are now owned by the same company.
Yes, that won't be a problem for anybody.
How are they? Yeah, Penske now owns both of these competing what the fuck are they called? The trades. And I was going to say tabloids. They're the trades. And they have been competing for nearly a century in this town, trying to break news and, you know, have all the agents in the studios curry favor with them to cover their stuff positively. And now they're all under the same umbrella. And
under Janice Min, like, she really took the Reporter in a different direction.
Yeah.
Right. So they haven't really been like in each other's business for a while. Right. I mean, maybe online, but Janice Min, the editor-in-chief who took over, what was that, like 10, 12 years ago? Like, she really tried to tilt more towards what, like...
Kind of a glossy...
glossy, similar to what Entertainment Weekly or Premiere was in its heyday. Yeah. Not that necessarily was the right move,
TheWrap remains independently owned, I want to say.
No, I can't wait for them to rename them both the Hollywood Variety.
Yeah, I mean, anyway, it's weird.
Well, this is the part that I found most upsetting in all this, in addition to the fact that those two are owned by, and Billboard and Rolling Stone now all under the same umbrella, which less competition is always bad in the media for writers and for the public and everybody else. PMRC, as they are now known, which is what Tipper Gore's old organization against rock lyrics was called, also owns a production company, MRC, that makes like Ozark and other stuff. So they're not only covering the entertainment industry, they're in the entertainment industry. And it's
that's called vertical integration, baby.
That never works. Like
cross platforms.
Vertical integration.
You cannot objectively cover an industry that you also have a stake in. You know, it's appalling.
Anyway, we'll keep following all these
and
things.
The layoffs are going to be brutal.
Yes. But yeah, please, Matt, make sure we get some video of the Vin Diesel.
Okay.
But I'm putting Cats in my calendar. I didn't know about that.
October 10th on HBO Max. Do you have HBO Max?
I do.
Okay, there you go.
Maybe we should do a watch along. And like MST3K kind of like talk smack.
Because the whole thing with Cats is that it's the joy of the communal experience of, you know, watching it together and laughing together. I was sitting by yourself on the couch is really sad.
I did get to go to one Rowdy Cat screening before everything closed.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
it's the way to watch it.
Were you at the screening? I remember going to. So
your press screening was a lot more wild than Christy's.
Oh, well, right. So I had gone to see the Star Wars movie that morning,
right.
And then Alex, one of my former coworkers from Rotten Tomatoes, and I went and had a couple margaritas at lunch, and then went to the Cat screening, where they were still serving more alcohol at the screening.
Oh yeah,
and woohoo, yeah.
I was sober for Cats. All right, so that's
you
it for
picked
me
the wrong
for
week to
news.
stop sniffing glue.
Clearly, Matt, let's do some marquees, please.
Yes, let's do it. This is from Geoff Swanson. He says these are eerily prescient quotes from the Matrix Theater or the Parkway Theater. Eerily prescient quotes from the movie The Matrix at the Parkway Theater in Minneapolis just before the death of RBG. And the quote says, "Where we go from there is a choice I leave to you. And then a world where anything is possible."
Parkway, killing it.
Yep. I got a couple more pictures from Jacob Kolness at the Fargo Theater. One side of the marquee says, "On Wednesdays, we wear pink masks." And then the other one, "Mask pro quo, Clarice."
Those are two very different movies.
Right? No. It's totally the same movie. Put that on film and a movie, Alonso. Compare those movies.
There's a connection.
All right, so then we got a bunch of pictures from our friend Mark Francis Dong up in San Francisco area. He says, "This week I got a bunch for you from San Francisco, more faded posters, more defunct theater buildings, and 2 struggling movie houses. These theaters are within the northeast part of San Francisco, where there were about 16 movie houses that he knew of, and only about 4 struggling theaters remain. This first one is the Presidio Theater, still in operation, opened in 1937. That's a beautiful Art Deco building with some paint kind of highlighting the columns there. And he goes on to write, single screenings until 2003, then converted to a 4-screen house in 2004. SF held its first International Erotic Film Festival in 1970 with a $500 first prize.
Wow.
The benches and heat lamps in front of the theater there are for outdoor dining, he says. And the marquee says lntsf.com. I don't know what that's for, but I suppose we could look it up. Next, this is the Marina. He writes, the Marina Theater is also still in operation. See the faded Parasite poster over to the right of our picture here. Opened in 1928, then remodeled and reopened as the Cinema 21 in 1965 through 2001. Then remodeled again with 2 screens back to its original name, opening with Iron Man in 2008. Its original organ was moved to the Castro Theater in 1982. You can help support the Presidio and the Marina Theaters at ltnsf.com. That's it, right? He says that's it for still functioning movie houses. This is, I guess, the sad part. The Metro Theater is only a few blocks away, opened in 1924. That's another beautiful kind of Art Deco marquee. It opened as the Metropolitan, then was remodeled in 1941 as the Metro as a premier movie venue, then closed permanently in 2006, only to be reborn as a gym in 2009, like the Alhambra Theater, just a few blocks away. The small kind of rinky-dink Lumiere Theater opened in 1975. That's the next picture. As an art house with 2 screens, then 3 screens in 1983, then unfortunately closed in 2012 and is now a clothing shop. You can see the Lumiere sign is still there. Not sure what a marine layer workshop is.
Maybe that's the name of the store.
Oh, maybe.
Maybe that's the name of the store that's now in that movie theater space.
Yeah, I really want the 5-spice roast chicken at the Vietnamese restaurant next door. That sounds amazing.
Right, and then we can go to the Encore Karaoke Lounge, which is to the right of the store.
Marine Layer Workshop is a clothing store outpost of a popular small chain of bohemian shops known for locally made T-shirts and outerwear. It's on California.
All right.
There you go.
This is the North Point Theater, or what was formerly the North Point Theater. Clearly, that's an older picture.
Oh, wow.
At the bottom, right? Opened in '67, he says, and the last of the big premiere single-screen movie houses to be built in SF, which finally closed in '97. In the vintage photo, the North Point was boasting its amazing Dolby stereo sound as being just as important as the visuals, which was a thing back then, right? Like, I remember when you were seeing about like, oh, I wanted to go see a movie at the Dolby. It was vacant for quite some time. Then Goodwill moved in recently, only to close soon thereafter. Fun fact, the exterior was gloriously replicated in David Fincher's movie Zodiac, where the cops go see a screening of Dirty Harry.
Right.
Yes, and then his last picture, he's included his first ever fan art. Originally the Venerable Castro Theater. You can't quite see. It says breakfast all day. I've got the sad little, there it is. Breakfast all day, and it's vote. So very nice work, Mark. And then I've got one more picture to show you guys. This is the picture from the top of the show. World Theater, and the world is temporarily closed.
That's poetry.
Right? How droll.
Oh, man.
Those are great. Thank you, Mark. Alonso, have you been to the Castro Theater for anything?
I have multiple times. Yeah, the
not for movies.
The Frameline Festival happens there every summer. It's one of their venues. So yeah, I've been to a screen there. I got to do an event there once actually when Have Yourself a Movie Little Christmas came out. I hosted a double feature of I want to say Gremlins and Black Christmas, I think. It was 2 horror movies, and I got to do a Q&A between movies with my friend Jenny Olson. And yeah, it's gorgeous. It's it is one of the great sort of still standing show palaces of yore, and obviously a central part of that neighborhood. It's an iconic San Francisco location, and you watch something like The Times of Harvey Milk or whatever, and you see how central it is to the community and how important a landmark it is.
A beacon.
Indeed.
All right. So great.
Not to be confused with the Beacon in San Francisco.
All different. Thank you guys all so much for all those. We love them. So feel free to keep sending them in all the various ways.
Yes.
By all means. Yes. Send us your marquees everywhere that we are online, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. You can find us at BeFast All Day. Thanks for watching all of this. Like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And why not check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/BeFastAllDay. Right now we are recapping HBO's The Vow and Lovecraft Country. And this week we are reviewing the film from the late Dame Diana Rigg that our subscribers chose for us, and that would be the James Bond adventure On Her Majesty's Secret Service, and that's exclusive to our Patreon members. So head over there if you want to hear all of that. Thanks again. Y'all are great. Have a good week. Take care of yourselves and each other, and we'll see you next time. Bye.